Happy Thursday. Today, I want to talk about the biggest complaint that I get from a lot of you reaching out to me, especially at the director level and above, is I don't have a network. I am tired of applying for jobs. I feel at the mercy of the ATS, and I don't know how to approach hiring managers' network and start conversations. So, the reason I'm so excited to talk to you about this is because I just had an amazing coaching session with my clients, and they had so much clarity in terms of how they are handling building those relationships and what are the mistakes that they're making. There's a lot of advice out there when it comes to the tactical stuff, when it comes to sending outbound messages through LinkedIn, trying to network, trying to connect. And a lot of it is very salesy. A lot of it is the reason why you're not getting any responses, why you're applying for jobs and not getting interviews. So I'm going to share a lot of concepts today that are going to help you, because I know that if you're listening, that means that you're not 100% happy in your career. You want better options. You want higher compensation. You want maybe a better culture that allows you to have more autonomy, make more decisions. Maybe you're up for a promotion and it didn't happen, and you're sick and tired of just showing up and doing work that doesn't excite you. And the reason people stay stagnant in their career is because they don't have other options. And so the question is, how do we generate those options so that you can leave and you're not a prisoner to your job? Okay, so the number one thing that you need to first figure out before you start networking, before you start having conversations with people, is you need to be clear on what your sweet spot is. Because, and this is a mistake that I see with a lot of people, when you go on these coffee chats, when you start networking, when you start messaging people, if you're not clear about your own value and what you're targeting, then a lot of these conversations are going to go to waste. They're not going to be fruitful. They're not going to lead into the opportunity that you want to get. Okay. So you need to figure out what is it that you want to do. Now, using those conversations to figure out what you want to do is not always useful, because what ends up happening is you get even more confused. You get advice from all kinds of people. It's almost like when you're talking to friends and you're sharing with them that you're going through like symptoms, and they start giving you all these ideas about all the different things that you should try, and it actually confuses you even more. So this is the same thing. You need to be clear on what your ideal role is. Now, this is why a lot of people come and work with me, because trying to figure out on your own can be exhausting. You end up in this spiral. I have a client who described it as, I spent a whole month. I thought that I was going to be able to figure this out in a month. And I took the time to try to figure out, and I have 3 paths that I can get into, and I got even more confused, and I can't make a decision. Yeah, it's hard to make a decision on your path when you're inside the jar. You need someone on the outside to give you a decision-making process in order to make that decision. So step number 1, figure out what your ideal role is. And I have an example of an amazing client who actually is an extrovert. You don't need to be an extrovert to be great at networking and building relationships. But the reason I'm pointing him out is because even as someone who's great at talking to people, he was still having trouble getting interviews, even though he had a network, because he was not clear about his value proposition and what role to target. So when him and I worked together, that's the first thing we nailed. Step number 2, once you figure out the right role, you have a brand, your value proposition is clear, now is the time to network in order to generate opportunities. Now, people have mixed feelings when it comes to networking. Some of you love to hide behind your computer and hit the easy apply button on LinkedIn, thinking that it's the magical thing that it's going to help you land the role. Some of you complain about the ATS, the application tracking system, and fiddle around with your resume and rewrite it 1,000 times with AI. Frankly, when you're at a level of a director and above, you should not be fiddling around with your resume. The goal is not the resume. The goal is to have conversations. If you want to land your next role, your goal is not to build a resume. Your role is to get in front of the decision maker. The resume, honestly, is a formality. And even though I teach my clients how to build their resume after we nail their positioning, I always tell them the resume is a formality. We built it not because we're going to use it all the time. We built it not because we're going to rely on it, not because we think it's going to be our golden ticket to a job. We built it mainly to get you clear on your value. Because the way I teach my clients to build their resume is actually through creating a storytelling narrative, being able to understand all of their different initiatives and put them in a story format. And then part of that is going to be the resume. But I don't tell them that once you have the resume, you're going to have a golden ticket and you're going to get in. So really, the end goal is to have them talk to as many people as possible. All right. So how do we have these conversations without being salesy? Obviously, one of the best channels to find hiring managers is to use LinkedIn. Now, today in my coaching session with my clients, I saw examples of some of the messages that my clients were creating. And it's weird because if they were on the other side and they were receiving that message, they wouldn't read it. But for some reason, they felt it was okay to send those messages. And it makes sense because when you are, when you really want to land a job, sometimes you're going to put your ego aside and do what is cringy to make it happen. But that's not the best way to get there. The thing that you need to understand that the person on the other side is a human being. And I want to give you guys this analogy. So let us say you're sitting at a coffee shop. You're a director, you're sitting at a coffee shop, and someone approached you. And the first thing that came out of their mouth was, "Hey, how's it going? I'm looking for an opportunity at company X. Would you be able to help me?" What would your reaction be? Put for me in the chat. What would your reaction be if you were sitting at a coffee shop and a stranger approached you asking you if your company was hiring? You don't know this person, and that's the first thing that came out of their mouth. How would you feel? Would you be excited to talk to them, or would you want to run away? You would want to run away. Desperate. Yes, you would feel like they are desperate. Now, here's another scenario. Let us say you were sitting at a coffee shop and someone came up to you and said, "Hey, that's a really nice mug. What are you drinking?" Would you be more likely to respond to them? It's an innocent question, right? So this is exactly how you want to approach building relationships and sending messages to hiring managers on LinkedIn. You want to start with sending a connection request that's non-threatening. Always lead with flattery. Look at the person's profile, find something that you have in common and make it non-threatening. For example, "Hey, I noticed that we went to the same school. Would love to connect with you." Or, "Hey, looks like we're in the same field. I've been reading your content. I'd love to connect. I really love your content," right? Something non-threatening. Now, the other mistake that I have learned that my clients, shared with me that they were making is they don't send a connection request. They send an in-mail. Never, ever, ever send an in-mail to anyone. In-mails are associated with sales messages. Have you guys ever gotten in-mails that are pitching you something, where they're trying to sell you something? What is your first reaction? You want to run away. You don't want to read it, right? And in fact, for a lot of people, they have a setting that basically directs all the in-mails to some kind of junk folder that they never read. So if you want to build a relationship with someone, you should not be sending them an in-mail. You should be sending them a connection request, because what does a connection request mean? It means I would love to add you to your network. I'd love to get to know you, versus I want to get straight to the point and sell you something. Okay? In-mail through the DMs. Don't do that. Send them a connection request. Okay, so that is step number 1. Send them a connection request. Obviously, in the connection request, have a customized message that is catered to them. Like I said, something light, something that shows interest in them. Once they accept the connection request, then this is where you gradually build the relationship. And don't ever, ever send a long message with your resume attached. Oh my God. Do not do that. Don't say how amazing you are. Don't say how you're a great fit for the organization. And do not attach your resume to the DM. Don't do that. Unless they ask you for your resume, do not send it, because it's salesy. It really is. Who wants to sit there and read a long resume? No one. Okay? What you want to do instead is have a conversation with the person. Have a conversation. And the end goal is not the resume. The end goal is to get on a coffee chat with them. The end goal is to get in front of them, build that relationship. And once you have that coffee chat, organically, the conversation is going to go into, hey, let me refer you to this role, or share with me your resume. I'm going to send it to the hiring manager. And if it is the hiring manager that you're going to be talking to, then they're only going to ask your resume as a formality for HR purposes, but they're pretty much interviewing you when you're getting on the call. So that's honestly how you should approach building those relationships on LinkedIn. I think what happens is that sometimes we forget that job search involves human beings. And when it comes to human beings, human beings don't like someone to treat them as a transaction. If you're going about things in a transactional way, then that's not how you're building relationships. You also need to stop waiting for a job to be posted or for a favor in order to reach out to people and build relationships. Okay, now I kind of gave some of this tactical stuff. Another thing I wanted to say is that sometimes we underestimate our existing network. I had a client, her grandfather was in the dream company that she wanted to land, and she had no idea, and they were hiring for the role that she wanted to land, but she didn't know. And I gave her this exercise to make a list of every single person in her life, prioritize them from based on basically how much they're going to vouch for you and how influential they are. And based on that combined score, prioritize reaching out to them. And so she did that, and she found out that her grandfather worked at the company that she wanted to be in. So sometimes we underestimate our network. Sometimes we don't make the effort to reach out and nurture your existing networks. Instead of like going in that order of reaching out to people you don't know. You should start with the people that you know first and then slowly expand. Okay, what else did I want to say? I had something in mind that I wanted to share with you all, but it's like skipping my brain. I always do these lives spontaneously. But yeah, oh, yes, I remembered now. Don't underestimate the old-fashioned way of face-to-face networking. I think we are so caught up in the digital world that we forget that there's opportunity to meet people in person. So, especially if you are in tech, Luma.com, which is like the new version of Eventbrite, has a lot of amazing events that you can attend. I'll give you guys an example. One of my clients, he's going for partnership role and he wants to expand his network in tech. And so what I said to him was, you are so pigeonholed in the government industry and you have so much imposter syndrome pivoting into tech and immersing yourself in the tech world because you're not exposing yourself to people in that world. And so what you want to do instead, if you kind of want to change up your network and change your exposure, it's almost like, when you want to learn a language like French, what do if you want to learn French? You go to France and you immerse yourself to be around people in France. And that is like the fastest way. It's the fastest way to learn French. And so if you want to pivot into a role, if you want to change industries, if you want to move up, what do? Go to events with the people who are in the roles that you're interested in. So for this client, as an example, I encouraged him to go to tech events, to be around VPs in tech. You don't have to go in with an agenda all the time. And that's the problem. That's the mindset shift that we need to change too. Like a lot of you, when you approach these things, when you're networking, when you're applying for jobs, you always fixate on the end goal versus the journey. The journey is as valuable as the end goal, and the end goal doesn't need to happen in one interaction. You talking to someone is not going to always mean that you're going to get the job just after this conversation. But having that conversation with that person could open doors to you having conversations with someone else, or it could materialize into something in the future. Cool. So that's pretty much it that I wanted to cover today. I'm trying to work on making my lives a little more concise. Listen, what I've taught is like 1 out of probably 10 different things that I teach in my program. Because networking alone is not going to help you land the role. It's one skill set that you need to learn in order to go through a career transition. There are multiple skill sets that you need to learn. For example, you need to be great at positioning yourself. You need to be great at selling yourself. You need to have a very strong leadership brand. And yes, networking is one of them in order to build those relationships. You need to have the confidence to speak in a concise, engaging way. You need to take all that messy experience that is in your brain that's nonlinear and translate it correctly, for the right opportunities. There are so many steps, and I give my clients the system and the accountability to help them get there. I help them focus on the right things so that they're not wasting their time. And that way they can land roles as soon as possible. But if I were to boil it down, one of my specialties is absolutely helping people realize their value, because I was in your shoes for 15 years in the corporate world. I underestimated my value. I was a transformation leader for more than 15 years on billion-dollar programs. I was carrying the weight of a lot of these programs, and I was seeing my peers get promoted, Whereas I was like, doing so much because I didn't know how to sell myself. Okay. And I got very frustrated at some point, and it took me quitting over text and becoming a career coach and learning all these systems to recognize, wow, if I knew what I know today, I would have had a much easier time. I would have had a much, much, much easier time. Sometimes, especially if you are a high achiever and especially if you are an ambitious person, you can be very hard on yourself and you can fixate so much on, I just need to upskill. I just need to be good at what I do. But believe me when I tell you, after working with more than 1,000 leaders, the issue is not you being bad at what you do. The issue is not that you need to learn more things. The issue is that you don't know how to market yourself. You don't know how to express your value. Sometimes it's because you don't see your value clearly. So if you don't, how can people see it clearly? And sometimes even when you see your value clearly, you just don't know how to translate it into a compelling way for someone to get it. And so this is where I come in as someone who's external, someone on the outside, someone who has a system to make it efficient for you. Because, hey, I know that you're already a good communicator, but when it comes to applying this to yourself, it can be very hard. Alrighty. So if you'd like to work with me, or if you're curious about what it's like to work with me and you need help with this, I offer a career diagnosis. And so how you can book this career diagnosis is very, very simple. I'm going to show you all how to do it. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me see. I wish there was a fast way for me to share my screen. If you go into my profile, you're going to see a button here that says book an appointment. So once you go there, you can scroll down. You can click on book your career diagnosis button, and it's going to take you 2 minutes to fill out this form. It is going to help me understand what is it that you're struggling with, what your goals are. That way, in the 15 minutes, we can create a plan for you to help you get there. Okay, friends, I'm really excited. I hope you're enjoying summer. If any of you are in Toronto, please drop something in the chat. Toronto has been very crazy for the past couple of days. There's been orange, weather alert, lots of smoke. And with my migraines, it's been very tough for me. I literally had to lock myself in my condo all day today. I didn't even leave because of how bad the smoke was. Yesterday, when I went out, I inhaled a lot of the, smoke, and it gave me a terrible migraine. I couldn't sleep. So I have my purifier running, and I really hope that tomorrow is going to be a better day because I am dying to take my dog out for a walk. So if you're in Toronto, I want to say hi. Drop, Toronto in the chat. If you're outside of Toronto, then let me know where you're tuning from. I also love to see who listens to my lives. And hey, friends, do me a favor. If you found this valuable, I'd love your feedback. If you can even just give me a like, that'll help me understand who's watching, who's learning. And if you want to go the extra mile, tell me out of what I shared, what was your biggest takeaway? What is a tip that you really like? And yeah, that is going to make my day. Okay, well, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And yeah, till next time.